Hey everyone, Joey here, and today we're going to take a look at gaming on a Samsung Galaxy Fold 7. I just recently picked up this phone, I absolutely love it, and we're just going to go through a ton of different games, different emulators, and different use cases and what my experience has been with them. Android games, emulated games, all the way up to Switch, and so on. I'm pretty much only going to focus on the inner screen because I'm not sure why you would buy this phone and use the outer screen for gaming or really anything. The inner screen has a resolution of 2184 by 1968, which is a 5:4 aspect ratio, and it is an 8-inch screen. It also has a nice 120 Hz refresh rate, which helps for streaming and games that can actually use the full screen. I'm also just going to be using my GameSir G8 Plus Bluetooth controller for today, since the USB-C is in a bit of a weird spot, and I think this just works better for comfort reasons. First up, Nintendo 3DS. Probably the bestest use case for a Fold 7 and emulation. I am using the Azahar emulator here, and we are in portrait mode for the Fold. That basically means that the volume rockers are on the side, so how you would normally open a Fold, and it is technically called a portrait display when it is in this mode. I dare say, this is quite possibly the best 3DS experience that I've ever had on any device I've ever used. It is downright gorgeous. There's massive screen area, more than enough power for any game that you want, of course, and because we're at a 4x upscale, everything just looks beautiful. Even in Pokemon, it is just a perfect fit with the amount of space on the bottom for controls and the top to see what's going on. For fun, I turned the Fold into landscape mode. The volume rockers are now on the bottom or top in this mode, and look at how much screen that you get to play with on any single screen 3DS games. It's just gorgeous. Jumping into some streaming with Apollo and Artemis, and if you have no idea what those are, check out my video on that topic. You can stream your games from your PC to any of the devices on your local network. And yeah, some games will just not work well with this weird resolution of the Fold 7. But the amazing part of this experience is the decoding time. I am seeing sub 1 millisecond decoding time streaming, and I'm not even at my good Wi-Fi 7 access point in my house. This is just my Wi-Fi 6 access point in a suboptimal place in my studio. So it gets better. Now, I've never seen an Android device with this low latency before. It is absolutely insane, and it matches what I've seen from Windows devices. For reference, my Odin 2 Portal is typically in the 3 to 4 ms range. Cyberpunk 2077 is a great example of a game that will use all of your screen real estate, and it just looks fantastic, of course. This phone is honestly just something else, and if you can make this work for streaming, it's probably the best experience you're going to get. But Joey, you might be asking, what about Wii U emulation? And yeah, you're kind of limited right now by the actual emulator. It's not really progressed that far. So while you can boot into some games, and some games might be playable, like Wind Waker for a little bit, there are some issues later on down the road in a lot of these games for this emulator that just don't make it a great experience. So you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. But you have enough power here for whenever that time does come that you'll be able to do Wii U emulation at some point in the future, and it'll look fantastic here as well. Now, they don't have any settings set up for you to do proper dual screen right now for top and bottom, but maybe in the future. However, 4x3 content and GameCube using Dolphin at a 3x upscale is where this display really shines. We have Super Smash Bros. Melee here, 4 characters on screen, not a single problem running this. It is smooth, you have a massive screen, and it is just an experience that you can't get elsewhere. Now, I did end up recording more GameCube footage, except that I accidentally had 16:9 on in F0. So if you're curious what 16:9 GameCube content looks like, you can see that on screen now. But you would pretty much just stick with 4x3 content for GameCube. Let's take an emulation break and check out some Genshin Impact. Fair warning, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing in this game. I don't play it. I played enough to get to this point, apparently, but I don't remember any of this. But yeah, it is a gorgeous screen either way. It really just pops, and the experience of a full screen game, when you can get it, is awesome. We are playing here at 60 FPS with high settings, and it doesn't skip a beat. Genshin lovers would love this phone. Back to emulation now, and if this doesn't sell you on the Galaxy Fold 7, then nothing will. Here is PS2 emulation, Burnout Revenge, 3x upscale, and man does this just pop. Power-wise, we are nowhere near the limit of what the Fold 7 can do. I've kind of kept it at 1080p for all of these games, but you can upscale further if you want to. Either way, this is the smoothest PS2 experience on Android that I think I've ever had, personally. Plus, it's the nicest. The screen and everything, it all combines. Now that carries over into another favorite game for PS2, and that is Dragon Quest VIII. And again, I dare say, like the 3DS, this might be the best 4x3 device on the market right now, because I don't know what is better than this experience with this power and this screen. PS2 emulation just absolutely shines along with GameCube and this screen. But let's check out a 16:9 system now with PSP. The black bar situation isn't bad. Obviously not as good as 4x3, but I have no issues with this how it is. However, what is awesome about it is utilizing the Fold 7 actual best-selling parts, and that is split screen. Pop out a guide in the bottom, use that while playing, and you have a fantastic experience. You can even make the top screen a bit bigger if you want, in case you didn't want an even split of top and bottom. You can really just adjust it to however you want. Meanwhile, the Fold 7 just eats up PSP easily. It's RetroArch time, and it is also a learning opportunity for myself, at least. Turns out, this phone doesn't actually work in RetroArch with OpenGL. You'll get a black screen with sound, and everything is playing around in the background, but the screen doesn't actually show anything. Apparently, you actually need to use Vulkan for it to work in RetroArch. But the one issue with that is it actually does cause issues with some cores, and we'll talk about that in a second. First, I need to show you what Game Boy and Game Boy Color look like on this. Integer scaling is on right now, but you can't even tell. For those that don't know what integer scaling is, it means that we are expanding the screen at a perfect integer scale to avoid things like lines being wavy and things being out of whack when you scale not integer scaling. But just look at Game Boy on this. I actually couldn't believe my eyes the first time I did this, and I thought I did something wrong, but no, this is how it looks. It is downright gorgeous, it is downright fantastic, and I absolutely love it, and I never want it to leave me. I have said this a few times in today's video. I have played Game Boy on many devices, but never have I seen it as good as this. Game Boy Advance is up next, and you get more screen area to work with than something like PSP, for example, and there's a lot of it. Using a Pokemon ROM hack here in Pokemon Ash Gray to show it off, and yeah, again, I want this forever, and again, we are still integer scaled here. Throwing up a guide in the bottom screen, and you'll have a great experience for Game Boy Advance. Now, Nintendo 64 is where that OpenGL issue comes into play. The Mupen 64 Plus Next core uses OpenGL. You can't use Vulkan apparently, or at least it didn't work. So I popped out of RetroArch and I went into the standalone M64 Plus FZ emulator, booted up some Mario Kart 64, and yeah, this is the life right here. Big screen, Nintendo 64 gaming, again, 4x3 content, it's the perfect fit. Nintendo DS is up next, and it is a bit different than 3DS here. You could go and customize the screens to make the top bigger and all of that fun stuff, but let me show you the default experience. There's about 8 or so different layouts in RetroArch that you can swap to using the MelonDS DS core, with the single screen layout being awesome. Once again, just so much room. Now, if you can find single screen games to play for DS, this is the best way to play them. Just use MelonDS standalone to upscale, and you'll have a great experience. Then we get to some PlayStation 1 games, and this is with integer scaling on right now, and you can see that it's probably not the best experience, I think. and I don't really need to use integer scaling or PlayStation 1. So if we turn that off, we get our usual 4:3 screen ratio, and the bars on the bottom and the top just blend right in, at least for Final Fantasy VII here. But honestly, I never noticed them. Since we're here, one of my favorite use cases that I mentioned before is throwing up a guide on the bottom screen and just playing on the top. You can see an example here with Final Fantasy VII. Now, you do need to tap on the active window to get back to it and have your controls actually work, but otherwise, what better way to play through your games and not miss anything than with a guide at the bottom? It's fantastic. Last on the list for RetroArch, and we have Super Nintendo with my favorite, Super Mario World. Yeah, this is easily something that I could get used to, and I never want to change. This is just a premium experience for emulation, in every way that you want it to be. Would you buy a $2,000 or so phone just to play Super Nintendo? No, but if you have one, why wouldn't you? As far as PlayStation 3 emulation goes, I just had a ton of crashing, and I couldn't get games to actually play or run. This, again, like Wii U emulation, is just not completely there yet, but sometime in the future, I would hope and sincerely hope that it will be, and again, you'll have the power here to play that whenever it does happen. Then we get to the Switch experience with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. There is definitely graphic issues. There is no custom drivers for the Fold 7, as far as I know, but the game itself, when it's done building shaders, runs great and runs well. You just need to deal with the graphic issues, at least in this game. I imagine that other games will have more problems and all that sort of thing. Without custom drivers, it gets a little tough. But anyways, this is a proof of concept here. If you want to play Switch games, just go buy a Switch. We're back now to Android games with Wuthering Waves. I've never said that before in my life, but we are on medium with 60 FPS, and this game looks and plays great. Like Genshin, I have no idea what is happening in this game. I just use it for testing, but as far as I can tell, Wuthering Waves players will love seeing their waifus on this big screen. Now, speaking of waifus, Zenless Zone Zero is up next, playing on high at 60 FPS, and as far as I can tell, once again, with these games that I do not play, it is a super smooth experience. There is no better way to spend all of your hard-earned money after buying a Fold 7 than on gacha games, getting your waifus. Okay, so if you have stayed this long, I have a special treat for you. This is old school RuneScape. I am not a RuneScape player. World of Warcraft is my jam, but I have heard that this is popping off, and so I wanted to check it out. And all I've been doing is chopping trees. So I'm in the starting area just chopping trees. That is my fun part about this. I want to be a woodworker. That's all I want to do. But look at the screen and what you can do here in RuneScape. Now I can hear you RuneScape players just frothing at the mouth. And trust me, I get it. It is large. There's a lot of screen real estate. You can spin around and do whatever you want. And as far as I can tell, being in the tutorial area and all of that, it is a decent experience on Android at least. So if you want to casually play RuneScape, you can do that really nicely here. Now you might be wondering, can you play these games for a while? And the answer is you can play them indefinitely. Samsung has a battery bypass option that you can enable for when you are plugged in. Basically, what this will do is pause charging your device's battery, and it'll just charge the actual device. And that results in preventing overheating, less heat overall, and all of that fun stuff. And if you're near a charger, you could just play forever. But that's really all I had for you today. I hope that gave you some good insight into gaming on a Samsung Galaxy Fold 7. I'm gonna be honest, I absolutely love this phone. Truly, I don't think I could ever go back to a normal slab phone. And so I'm going to be a Fold person forever. Don't forget to like and sub to help the channel grow. Come join me on the Discord to talk all about retro gaming. Support me through YouTube membership if you like my stuff. And hope you all have a good one.